washing over me. You left me drowning, drifting from shore to shore. The tide rose, I overcame. My mind became something more.
Good evening, I'm Zaraganat. Welcome to the studio this evening. A little bit of a late start, but just busy with things. Doing some of this diamond, I've got another one of these, diamond painting, magic dots, diamond painting. Diamond dots is the trade name for a particular manufacturer. This is a clone, but it's just as much fun anyway. So this one is a white tiger. He says, hoping it's not a leopard. Yeah, it's a tiger, it says somewhere, which you can't see. Oh, blimey, that's what it looks like. I don't see that same view here. I was reading up there where it says tiger. So let's move this camera a little bit. I set up in a little bit of a rush, so let's just bring that up there a little bit. Lights. Lights are a bit of a pain, but never mind. So I would say it's nice and easy. There's only 5 colours, but it's not necessarily as easy as it looks. It takes a long time. It looks like you do this in about 10 minutes. Yeah, right. I've sort of said that before now. Yeah, that only looks like it's going to take a couple of hours. Sort of several weeks later, you're still going. Right, so I can either start with white or I can start with black. Doesn't really matter which one I guess. You get one of these with every kit. You tend to accumulate them, but we might as well use a new one. So let me get this little bit of wax out of here, get rid of that bag, and take the protective plastic off of one side, which then allows me to press this through and get some wax in the end, which is what holds the dots on. So do I start with number 5, which is white, or let's start with number 1, which is black, just because there looks to be less of that, and that'll get us off to a good start. So I'm just pouring them out into, or some of them out into a container. Put them somewhere where they're not going to fall over. So lots of sparkly dots. Which I do not want everywhere, so stop jumping out. Okay, so let's do this the easiest way. Maybe. Oh, that's stuck on well. Haha, that's stuck on really well. The plastic stuff here, which protects the glue, is stuck on really well. I could hardly get that off. Right, actually what I ought to also do at this point is change glasses for somewhere I might stand a chance of seeing what I'm doing, which is a little bit daft. I can see what I'm doing, and I can see the details of what I'm doing, but it's just sharper if I change my glasses, which is what I've just done. Right, have a quick, that wasn't what I wanted to do, but okay. Thank you. Right, so let's make a start with black, number 1. So these go on a particular way around. Let's get rid of that little hair. Cat hair. I know we're doing a cat, but cat hairs, they get everywhere. And it's really just a case then of putting these black dots everywhere in every square where there's a number 1. A bit like painting by numbers, in that sort of, I was about to say all the work's done for you, all the design work's done for you, all the work of actually executing it you have to do. But yeah, that's fun in itself. But also another one that's like this is cross stitch, same sort of idea. And sometimes you even get sort of canvases on cross stitch which are already sort of marked up, rather than having to do what they call counted cross stitch, where you get a separate chart. So if this was, a cross stitch that was already marked up, I'd just be sewing this. And I really ought to finish some of my cross stitch kits off. I've got loads of them. In fact, I've probably got more than I will ever do still. That's because Lady Zara likes the cross stitch pictures and wanted this one and that one and that one and so on. And because you can never find them again afterwards, either the limited editions they sell out or you just can't remember where you saw them, tempted to get them at the time when you saw them, so that you've got it. Now of course I can't remember half the kits I've got. In fact, I can't remember any of the kits I've got, I don't think. I've probably got some savannah ones, elephants and tigers and things like that, because big cats is something which Lady Zara likes. I actually think some of the pictures, even like this one, are really rather amazing pictures. I mean, this isn't bad to say it's pixelated, but it looks really good. Right, so good news at my end. We had an electrician here today working on the glass studio, so it's electrified now. Which is taking us another step closer to ordering the glass kit, the flamework kit. In fact, I've just started looking at kilns, just to make sure I can run a kiln. A bit late having had the electrician in, but I know what my power limits are, and I've been checking today just to make sure the kiln will stay within the power limits, within the power budget. As I say, it's a bit silly if it won't, if it hadn't, because too late. Really expensive job to put more cabling in, which I didn't want to do at this time. If I have to do it in the future, I have to do it in the future, but hopefully by then I'll have saved some money. Or perhaps made loads of beads that people wanted to buy, perhaps. That would be nice. Right, this is taped down. It doesn't need to be taped down. It's taped down for 2 reasons. One is, it means the bottom, when I get down to it down here, is not tucked down here where I can't get to it too easily. Down, well, you can't see, but down here there's a big lip. And it's a bit awkward working around there. That's from previous experience. The other one is this kit came rolled up into sort of sort of squashed tube, if you see what I mean, about 2 inches, 3 inches wide, and so this has got quite a strong crease in it, which does fade out over time. But when you're here, if you don't stick it down, it tends to sort of fold up and bunch up, and it gets quite unpleasant trying to work with it when it's doing that. So a little bit of masking tape on the board, and it stays nicely, I was going to say nicely flat. It's not exactly flat, it's sort of still sticking up, but it's in a workable position. So the glue for these there's no glue on these things. The glue is purely on the back here, and so basically anything will stick to the canvas, including you if you put your fingers on it, which isn't a good idea because it tends to wear the glue off, but dust, etc., which is why there's plastic sheets on there which they supply. That's to stop it sticking to itself, mainly in transport, but it's a good idea to leave it on, because by leaving it on, when I've finished this evening, I can pull that back over and it will sort of stick in place, and will stop dust and dirt and other things getting on there and either ruining the picture because stuff is on it, or ruining the glue and stopping these dots sticking to it so they fall off and ruin the picture. So always a good idea, and just pull it back in sections to do whatever where you're working on it. Now the dots do have these dots are dome shaped. They stick mainly. I don't know if it's static electricity that causes them to stick. You do put a bit of wax in the end, but maybe they, the first few do seem to be stuck because the wax sort of just touches the dome and it sort of sticks, and then it's not a very good stick, so that the glue that's on the canvas is significantly stronger, especially if you saw me trying to pull that back earlier on. And so once it grabs the dot comes off the pen really easily. But I think at times it is static electricity which causes it to stick as well. Same effect. It just sits on the end until it comes in contact with the glue and will then come away easily. So this is the first section that's going to be done there. And now we just carry on. Wherever there's number one, stick a dot. These for things effectively, the glue, especially I guess if this glue is somewhat stronger, these aren't exactly a one-time do and that's it. You can lift them off. You need something like a sharp knife. I'd use a scalpel just to sort of get under the edge and lift it off. So you can pull them off if you put one in the wrong position. You can also, to a limited extent, slide it. If it's not quite in the right place, you can just push it and push them into place. If you've got them in totally the wrong place, then my first, and I have done that occasionally, my first thought is, does it matter? Can you see it's in the wrong place? Like is there a black dot where you really don't think there should be one or something? And it looks awkward or looks odd. If it does, then remove it. If it doesn't, I'm just as inclined to leave it sometimes. I mean, there's nothing saying that I actually have to put black here where it says number one. I could put white. I could reverse all of this, except for the fact that I'm not sure I have enough white. Excuse me a second. I shall be just away from the screen for a couple of minutes. If you'd just like to just enjoy the picture, I shall be back shortly. And we're back. Good evening. You're not supposed to do that, screen. Why are you doing that? Yeah. So, nice, that screen there just turned itself off, which kind of surprised me because I thought I'd told it not to. Because where I am here, it's the computer doing the broadcasting is over there, and I've got a separate screen over here, completely separate computer, which is doing the displaying chat, so that I can see what's going on, and other things as well. Right, two-handed job to do this. This is strong adhesive. This is really unusual. Yeah, I'm not saying that the adhesive isn't good. It usually is quite good on these, but that's quite strong. Well, the only kind of awkward thing about this is having to reach over what you've already done to put the next dots on sometimes, without sort of putting your hand on the rest of the glue. But yes, so today I've been looking at, as I say, kilns. I still haven't quite decided what kiln to get. I got a number of options, or a few options. Mainly, I mean, the main one is down to size. Do I go for kind of, I won't say the biggest one, but the biggest one that is reasonable for me to afford at this time, and can work within the power budget that I've got? Or do I go for a slightly smaller one, which is cheaper? And it is really down to size. Yeah, does size matter in terms of kilns? Only if you want to do large pieces. And we're looking at a couple of them, although I can still change my mind and go for something completely different. But one of them is sort of 8 by 8 by 6, the other one is 8 by 8 by 8. And it's kind of like going, the extra 2 inches height would be nice, but will I use it? Because it's more expensive. And if I don't use the extra height, then it's kind of been a waste of money. But am I going to, would I get the slightly smaller one, save the pennies, get more glass for example, excuse me, and then regret not getting the larger kiln because I'm not able to do what I want to do at some point. I don't know, because it's kilns are expensive. Kiln, it costs more than all the other stuff put together. Which is may or may not be surprising. I kind of didn't think that they necessarily would be. I mean, in essence, a kiln is some fire bricks, some heating elements, and an industrial controller, and that's it. And I'm not saying there isn't design goes into them and all that sort of stuff, but essentially that's all it is. And yet they are several hundred euros, pounds, dollars, whichever currency you want to do it in. It's still several hundred of them. And of course, when you start looking at kilns, you've kind of got to decide what you want to do. Now, I'm talking here about glass working. So you get kilns that will fuse glass, you get kilns that will slump glass, you'll get kilns that will slump bottles, you can get kilns that will do annealing, you get kilns that can do enamel, you get kilns that can do clays, you know, firing of pots, and do things like, you can get kilns that do things like silver clay, which is kind of a clay that turns into silver when you heat it, which has just occurred to me as a process of sintering. And each of these, you know, all of those different things like glass fusing takes place at a different temperature to annealing, which takes place at a different temperature to, you know, metal work or clay firing, and things like that. So there's not likely to, well, I was about to say there's not likely, there will be kilns that do everything. I mean, basically, if a kiln will get hot enough for what you want it to do, you can do it. So, you know, if you want it to do things like fire pots and do glass annealing, then you'd be looking for a kiln that you can fire pots in, because that's the hotter temperature. And if you can get that, you know, you can set a kiln to a lower temperature. You can't set it to a higher temperature than it's capable of achieving. You just won't do it. So that's kind of your limiting factor. But things though, other things, so stuff like glass slumping or glass fusing is usually done top down. You'll take the top off, or you lift the top off the kiln, put the stuff in, and then load the lid down, because that's kind of how you build stuff. When you're glass fusing, you put glass with other stuff on top. Slumping is kind of the same, except it goes down into a mould. Glass work, flame work, so what they would describe often as off mandrel, is generally goes into a door on the front. Helps to keep you heating, because you're putting stuff in to a kiln whilst it's on. When you're doing things like firing, you know, clay and that sort of stuff, or slumping glass, you generally load the kiln cold, bring it up to temperature, do your firing, cool it down, and job done. With flame work, you start with the kiln hot. And it's called, well, generally it's called garaging, but you put stuff in either as you're working it or as you're finished to start to anneal, so that the glass cools, and it's the cooling particularly which is important, slowly, because if you cool glass too quickly, the stress will cause it to shatter, which is not something you want to happen when you just spent an hour making something. So glass kilns start hot, so you want to keep them hot, so they tend not to open from the top, because that lets all the heat out. I know a lot of the heat's stored in the fire bricks, but it lets an appreciable amount of the heat out. Opening the door, opening a large door on the front tends to let a lot of the heat out as well, but it's sort of slightly less. Basically not much difference. But the nice thing about a kiln which is at temperature, if you open the front door, it's hot, yes. If you open the lid, the heat is, you're working right into the heat rising out of it, and that's hot. You know, you're almost 1,000 degrees on the kiln, so you know, at least if you're off to one side of it, and the heat's going up and you're coming in from the side, it's not quite as sort of burny hot. And if you're doing things like bead work and you want to put beads in, you usually have a little door called a bead door, as it says in the name, and that lets very little heat out, but you can get the mandrels in there and work that way. And if you're going to do a lot of bead work and you've got a lot of mandrels, then you're better having a kiln which is specialised towards having lots of mandrels in it, so it tends to be not very tall but quite wide. Because it doesn't need to be very tall, because you kind of can't really stack beads on top of each other very easily, only to a limited extent. But if you're making, I don't know, a wine glass for example, then it needs to be tall. You can lay it on its side, so, but then it still takes up a fair amount of space. So if you sort of want to make 3 or 4 wine glasses in one session, you might run out of kiln space. If you're laying them down, or if you could stand them up, you might be able to do some more. And it's all this sort of thing. I'm trying to envisage, for example, how big sort of 8 inches by 8 inches is. What can you get in 8 inches by 8 inches? And careful how you answer that. But if I do something like a dragonfly's got a, I don't know, wingspan of what, 4 inches? So I could get 4 in. Okay, I can finagle them a bit, but when that it takes, I don't know, 20 minutes maybe to do a dragonfly, for example. And I'm making this up because I have no idea. I have done one, and I can't actually remember how long it took me. But if you sort of you filled your kiln in an hour, then you filled your kiln. You can't do anything about it. You just have to kick it into annealing and go get a cup of tea and come back here several hours later. So it can cut short the amount of time you can work on a torch. And so a larger kiln then, or a kiln that lets you arrange things so you can get more in it, is perhaps useful. And as I say, because of the expense, it's not something you want to be buying every week. It's not like, oh, I just need a slightly bigger kiln. I'll just go out and order one, like you might order a rod of glass. They are considered purchases, I believe the term is. Now these dots have to go in one way and only one way, or one way up anyway. They're sort of dome shaped, so you can spin them any sort of direction, rotation, but they have to be the right way up. They're a flat side and a dome shaped side. They go flat side down, that's the side that sticks. If you put one in the other way up, not only does it look odd, it doesn't stick very well. Now then, if I'd have been thinking about this, I'd have realised that earlier this week I have been doing a lot of painting, and my right arm is a little bit tired from all that painting, and here I am holding it up in the air in order to be able to do this. And it is starting to ache a little bit. So I shall rest it in a moment. Let's put the next 3 dots on this space here. And then I shall give it a little bit of a rest. I've got a feeling that camera is bouncing a little bit. It is. As I put each dot down. It's probably the cable. Let's see if the cable is... Yeah, it is somewhat taut. Right, that won't necessarily stop it bouncing, but if I make you all completely sick by just squeezing that clamp around there a little bit, there we go, that's a bit better. Right, it's a bit warm here in the studio. What temperature is it? 26 degrees. Time to get the remote control. Where's it? There it is. And turn the fan on. And since it's pointing in the wrong direction, we'll just do that. And there we go. That's nice. I'm not sure we'll leave that running for very long. It feels quite cool. I'm now resting my right arm a little bit. Can't easily do this left-handed though. Yeah, so the other thing I've been researching, I'm stood up here by the way. You may or may not have gathered that, but as you can perhaps tell from the easel is at sort of quite a high place. It's actually on an easel, by the way. It's on a desktop easel, which is used for painting, and this is a drawing board. Yeah, it is. No, this one isn't drawing. I've got two. Actually, I think I've got three. One's plywood, which is a very old drawing board. I wonder if I still got it or whether that warped. But anyway, it's flat enough. It could be a drawing board, but it's good for putting, like watercolor paper on if you want, and then taping around it to do watercolor painting if you like. I don't do any. I do it for airbrush painting or where I stick it down. But I sort of do this sort of stuff on it, or I can do pyrography on it and things like that. So with an easel, sometimes if you do non-canvas frames, then something like a drawing board is really useful to do. You can get them from art shops as well. Makes doing this sort of thing a fair bit easier. But I'm working at a standing desk, which is quite nice, because this is I'm stuck. This is at sort of the right height for me when I'm standing, hence the term, I guess, standing desk. And it's actually adjustable as this, which is really nice. So I can actually sit down and then lower the desk down to meet the height that I want it at, which is really useful for doing certain things, because it means that I don't actually have to stick to a normal desk height. Sometimes it's nice to have your desk just a little bit higher. Now you can do that sometimes with a chair and lower your chair a little bit, or vice versa. But sometimes it can be just a little bit awkward, and I can actually sort of raise or lower the desk as I wish. This one's nice. It's electrically operated and is really nice and smooth when it moves. And I think I'm going to get something similar for the glass studio, although it's going to be a hand operated one for that, not electric. Partly power budget. Don't want electric stuff that I don't need. Partly though is I can't afford it. But the standing desk will be really nice, especially if I've got a torch bolted to it, because it does mean that I can always sort of sit down and lower the desk down, or raise it up if I want to work with the torch at a higher location. Or I can stand up if I want and use the torch. I don't have to bend over the top of the torch, or I can stand nice and straight, which is what I'm doing here, and be comfortable, because when you're leaning over, of course, you're stressing your back gets tired, and that can get uncomfortable, to say the least. But standing desks, very nice things. It allows you sometimes to stand up, which is it doesn't sound like it'd be comfortable, but it is. Hello, Insane. Sarah, how are you? Diamond painting, yes. I finished the pyrography, and I didn't feel like starting another one, so I'm sort of doing this. This is going to take a little while, and I'm hoping that I'll have got the glass stuff in place by the time I finish this, and I can try to do some glass work. I saw you out and about today. Didn't stay on stream for very long, but I saw the start of the last song. So how are you? I take it you've not moved yet. It can't be very long now before you're due to move. And strictly speaking, this is a clone. Actually, it says diamond painting down here, but it's a clone of the one that is really expensive. So these are really cheap. I saw the diamond dots one, and when I saw the price on them that were in the shops, I thought no. And then I saw the clones, and I think I got something like about 8 different kits for the price of one of the real ones. There. It's surprising sometimes. You're looking at this and you're going, I've got a black dot, I'm looking for the number 1 and I can't see any. And they're staring you in the face, but now then. My train of thought just went. I hate that when that happens. I'm just gonna disappear. Luckily, I didn't drop them all. But they have gone all. I just caught the edge of the tray and I bounced them. And bounced a few on the desk and a few down the front of the board and a couple on the floor. They're a real picked find on the floor, and they get sort of very easily disappear into the pile of the carpet, and you keep finding them sort of days later. Now then, let me just persuade them to come out of there. I know if I leave them down here at the bottom of the easel, what's going to happen is at some point I'll forget they're there, and then I'll move the easel and I'll end up with black dots all over the carpet. And just tip them out of here. Come on. That's it. Cocktail sticks, very useful things. Use them a lot in airbrushing. They're really good for stirring paint. Actually, I sometimes use them as a brush as well, because they're very fine, relatively speaking. They've got a really fine point, and you can do things like signatures with them. A bit easier than trying to use a paintbrush. Of course, a pen would be easier, but I shall have to try making one of those at some point. A pen. Yeah. Yes, the mic is live. I've done that more than once. Forgotten to make the mic live. I always check that the mic works, but very occasionally, because I then mute it, having checked it works, and then whilst I've finished setting up for the stream, it's usually the stream's running and the mic's muted, and from time to time I do forget to turn the mic on. I have been known to go 3/4 of a broadcast before finding out or realising that the mic is muted. And of course a lot of people out there don't bother telling you. There's only the odd person that looks at it and goes, I can't lip read. Oh, okay. You're in a bed with Paul. I saw him broadcasting earlier today. I hadn't had a chance to look. It's been a bit busy at work, so I sort of saw him live earlier. Yeah, Paul's raided me a couple of times, I think, which was very welcome. Well, yeah, sometimes it can be a little bit, when you get really concentrating on something, it can be a little bit hard. I don't think I've ever missed a raid, but where I am, yeah, that's right. I saw you go live very first this morning, and I kept meaning to join the stream, and I kept meaning to join the stream all day, and when I actually managed to get round to doing it, they were just playing they just started to play the last song, and then the phone rang and I had to disappear again. Yeah, okay. Yeah, with where I am here, because the streaming computer's 6 feet that way, and I'm using a separate screen here, and when I put this, I don't particularly like using this board because it hides half the screen, and I've got to keep actually physically looking as opposed to just seeing it scroll. Yeah, I think that's what it, yeah. I joined just as you'd restart. In fact, yes, that's right. It must have just, I joined, and it said not live. Oh, I've just missed this, and then it came live again. So yeah, I just. Oh well. I was saying earlier, you must be due to move shortly, aren't you? In fact, I think I was surprised to see you streaming earlier this week, because I thought you'd given up now for... It was supposed to be this week, yeah. Another month? Blimey. That's hard going when you're all sort of prepared or looking forward to it, and all of a sudden it's another month. Yeah. Is that when you start thinking, should I unpack all of this stuff or should I leave it? You don't have the keys yet. Well, I suppose that is a, I was going to say compensation. I suppose it sort of means that at least you're not sort of where do we go in the meantime? Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna say trust. Well, you know, but trust me. Once it's packed, leave it packed. Not because if you unpack it all again, you have to pack it all back. It never goes back in the same space. And I trust your day of heart monitor went well. I hope they managed to find something. Although, of course, if you move shortly, you'll have to start all that lot again with a new doctor. Oh dear. Lady Zara's allergic to micropore tape, and it's the glue that they use on the tape, not the tape itself. And yeah, she comes up in bright red rashes and stuff like that as well. No, I can't. I can't. I was sort of going to tease you, but I can't. Not really. Yeah, I hope it's not serious as well. Yeah, I guess I'm kind of lucky. I'm not allergic to the tape and stuff that they use, because I used to give blood and what have you, and I used to go about every 3 weeks, and I could imagine if I was allergic to that stuff, my whole arm would be red, and they'd be going, "Go away." I don't do it anymore though. I had to stop when I passed out one day. Yeah. Well, that's kind of how I was going to tease you, but doctors aren't scared like that, so. I mean, it's probably worth having positive confirmation that you're okay, but. I'm fairly sure that you're right, that if there'd have been a problem, they would have been in contact with you. But what happens then is you kind of go, have I been out anywhere? Did I miss the phone ringing? Yeah. Well, I suppose it's a good thing that you weren't going to the doctor for memory problems then, isn't it? I was mentioning earlier, we've had the electrician in today, so the other studio now has electric, so we're getting closer to when I'll be able to order order a torch and things. So at least I can I'll now be able to run an Oxycon and a Kilden in the studio. And an extractor fan. And a fridge. Yeah. And it's not been daft. I was about to say it's not been too warm here today. I guess it's been dry, so less humid. I've just put the fan on in here now, but I've not had a fan on all day. But there again, I've not had a torch running either, so. But it's been sort of mostly pleasant day. It's supposed to get even hotter tomorrow though over here anyway in the UK. And they were talking. Thank you very much for the host. That's very kind of you. Yeah, there were they're talking about 30 degrees tomorrow, I think. No, not an aircon. Well, I don't think I have enough power in there to run an aircon. I do have one. Actually, it probably wants regassing, but I do have one. Kind of well, the one that I've got, you have to stick a hose out the outside somewhere, and it kind of almost defeats the object because you have to have a window open or a door open to be able to put the hose out so the hot air comes in. So it's sort of I would say semi-pointless. It does actually work quite well, or used to work quite well. I haven't run it for a while, but I can't see it doing very well in a glass studio where you've got to have that, got a fair amount of airflow. I can't see an aircon keeping up, unfortunately. Nice idea though. What kind of concerns me more is winter, actually. I mean, in summer, well, yeah. I'm gonna say the fans are sort of semi-decent, aren't they, in summer? But I won't have any heating in winter either. So I keep thinking, I'll keep trying to think of a way of putting a heat exchanger in the extractor flow, so if it's pulling air over the torch and heating the air up as it's going out the extractor, can I sort of push it through a heat exchanger of some kind to warm the incoming air up? Because otherwise I could see winter being somewhat challenging. And I know I can't put an electric fire or even a fan heater in there. Now, if I do with that, Andrew, I don't know how good the kiln will be. I was about to say, I don't know how good the kiln will be at keeping the room warm. I actually hope it's absolutely terrible at keeping the room warm. I don't want it to be wasting heat that way. But yeah, I can't run I'm only allowed 13 amps, so I can't run sort of two big heaters. Hopefully the kiln and torch, but I mean yeah, 10 degrees warmer. Well, the daft thing is this room, I mean, or this part of the house even, is always 10 degrees warmer than it is outside, and there's no heating on in here. And we don't get direct sunlight through these windows because there's the way in which the building is constructed. The windows are always in shade, so it's about 15 degrees outside now, and it's 25 in here. So but the new one, I don't know what it's going to be like. I was kind of surprised because I've as you know, I've only been on a torch once. I was kind of surprised how little heat you get from the torch, but it sort of doesn't surprise me in a way. I mean, you've got this gas pressure pushing the flame that way with the heat going the same way, so it's sort of, yeah. I shouldn't have been surprised, but I kind of was. But if it works that way in winter, I'll be happy. I tend to have a little bit of poor circulation though. Oh, what's not medically poor circulation, shall we say. It's never been, doctor's never gone, you've got poor circulation. But I have quite a low heart rate, and my hands do get cold very easily in winter. And so I'm kind of wondering what that's going to be like to handle glass. Trying to spin a rod or something like that if my hands get slightly cold, because of course you get stiff and whatever. Or you do when you're my age. I'm old. I'm an old man. This is your cue to say you don't look it, at which point I disagree with you, but anyway. Right. It's surprising how quickly you go through a lot of stuff piled in this, but it's equally surprising just how long it takes to do one of these things. This isn't a full sheet either. I did one a little while ago which was just slightly larger than A4, but it was completely covered. And I sort of, when I bought these kits, there's quite a few of them that were like this, which were not full sheets. They either had a background printed on them, or I guess this one is supposed to be snow or something, but some sort of background on them, and the picture was a bit in the middle type of thing. And I looked at them and thought, they're only going to take sort of a couple of hours. I would really like to have one which was fully covered, so it'd take a bit longer, a bit more of a I was going to say challenge. They're not really a challenge, but a little bit more than sort of just a couple of hours, to do one. And when I came to do the full one, I think it was about 60 hours to do a full one, and I thought, yeah, that's estimation for you. It is really surprising when you sort of look at these things. You just don't realise how many little squares there are on here. And each one of those little squares, of course, you've got to put a dot on. I know with the official kits you can get sort of tools that do 3, 4 or 5 at the same time, but I think well, I don't know how. So I've seen people do it using those on YouTube, on videos, and I have no idea how they managed to get a load of dots lined up in one of these trays the right way up in order to use one of these tools to get sort of 4 or 5 to put them down. I think I spend more time trying to get that many on a tool than it does to just lift them off one at a time and put them on. Dragon ones. Don't understand the context of that. No clue. Oh yeah, you've never done them. No, I mean I didn't. I literally I got an advertising email from one of the craft shops that I have been in from time to time, and they advertised the sort of the diamond dots, I suppose the official one. And I sort of looked at those and looked at a few videos and thought that was interesting, and then looked at the prices and thought not that interesting. But then I saw on Amazon the clone kits and I got quite a few. But yes, I seriously underestimated how long these things take to do. I think I'd never actually calculated how many there are, but there's about, I think these are about sort of 8 squares to the inch, and this thing must be at least a foot square, this one. So what's that, 8? 90, my maths, 96 times 90, well that's almost 100 times 100, so that's 10,000 dots. Yeah, well, I've never used AliExpress. I've kind of looked at it, and there's another one as well, similar, and I've just sort of not really sure about using it. But generally speaking, I just don't look on it very often. I ought to, because some of the electronic stuff I get, I know is available on AliExpress quite cheaply. Alibaba. Yeah, it could be. I think to some extent with those, I've no experience of using them, so quality is something which a lot of the time when I've seen stuff on there, it's been electronic stuff. I just dropped some on the floor. Electronic stuff, and electronics, I get wary about the quality, especially when it sort of looks. When the prices are sort of too cheap, in quotes. I didn't listen very long, unfortunately. As I say, I joined just as they sort of said, "We're going to play the last song." I heard the first couple of lines, and then my phone rang. So I had to mute the stream, and then it went into sort of more of a conference call, so I had to shut the stream down altogether. So to be honest, I didn't hear them. That is true. That is true. I will endeavour to. I will try and remember after the stream to take a look. Which hopefully I will remember to do. Today at work has been one of those days where I actually haven't got anything done. Every time I started doing something, I got interrupted with something else, and I've sort of been hopping from thing to thing all day. It's kind of odd in a way. I don't always think of watching the VODs. I mean, they are there. I mean, it's quite like, for example, I quite often miss you because of work, and yet I do like to have a stream playing often when I'm at work, because it helps me concentrate, daft as it sounds, in a lot of the time, and. It sort of is a little bit frustrating when there's nobody on that I kind of want to watch, because I won't just pick any stream, and I very rarely think of, oh, there's all the VODs there. In fact, generally speaking, which is daft, because I watch YouTube from time to time, and that's they are all pre-recorded. I just never think about doing it for the live broadcasts. There's only one streamer that I actually do watch the VODs of, and that's a game broadcaster, and he actually doesn't broadcast here on Twitch anymore. He's moved over to one of the other services, and that's only because he's in America on the east coast or the west coast. I can't remember. He's at least 5 hours behind, and so I never get to see him live. Yeah. Well, that is something which annoys me. I mean, hopefully it won't for Dirk's broadcast, but yeah, that when I'm watching some of the if I try watching some of the glass streamers and they are playing sort of general stuff, when it gets muted, that's kind of What I'd kind of love to be able to have happen would be for Twitch to sort of have you to be able to say to Twitch, here's the music and here's the microphone, and if you're gonna mute something, okay, mute the music if you have to do copyright, understand that, but keep playing the microphone. That would be a really neat feature if they could do it, I think. It's kind of one reason why I play I play the stuff that's playing here in the background is Pretzel, because they don't mute those. There is the broadcaster has a license to play them, so they don't get muted. And I quite like some of the tracks as well, especially the tracks from Approaching Nirvana. And it tends to be a random sort of thing. Yeah.
Your alarm is not set.
I'm glad it's not set, because I didn't ask for one to be set. That's Amazon's assistant. I won't say her name because she'll perk up again, but it is funny how for some reason she'll just wake up at some point and say something like that, your alarm is not set, and I can never work out what I said that was both the trigger word and sounded like something about the alarm. Let's get some more. Oh, put another black dot. Let's get some more black dots out. I've gone through half a packet already. These trays are not necessarily a good thing to leave about when you've got cats that walk around over the desk. It's bad enough when you drop them, but they do tend to sort of land in a fairly small sort of area. When you get a cat that puts its foot on one end of this and catapults the whole thing, it's a spray of dots all over the place. Which reminds me, I was just about to say one of the things that there is one other streaming service that I quite like from the point of view of they have effectively zero latency. So I mean, it must be something like 15-20 seconds here on Twitch, and Mixer has almost no latency, and I kind of would like that here on Twitch, because you've got to, I don't know if you find it, but you've got to maintain two streams of conversation in your mind, the one that you're saying now and the one that you said about 30 seconds ago, because I kind of, when you're reading the comments, it's kind of, what was I saying? Because of course, you got to sort of maintain that context. I probably don't do it very often, but I sort of almost keep trying, sort of go, this is what you said, this is what I said, but I don't always remember. But just to try and help out streamers sometimes when I'm talking. And but it just reminded me. What I'm going to have to try, I think, at some point is Twitch does have a lower latency thing, which I'll have to switch on and see how it does. It's supposed to be terrible though for if anybody has any of the people who are watching have a low bandwidth connection, then it's supposed to be sort of quite a horrible experience for them. And since I don't have transcoders, I don't want it. You use it. Okay. I'll have to try it. I shall put that on for the next stream. As far as I remember, when Twitch first tried it, they had sort of quite a bit of complaint about it. It either worked really well or it didn't work at all. I thought, I looked the other day because I thought I actually had it turned on, but it told me I didn't. I'll have to, yeah. I'll say that's that's the other thing that Mixer has. Everybody gets transcode. Okay. I suppose I can understand that. Yeah, because creative broadcasters have a fairly static video stream, so that there's the video bandwidth will be somewhat more, because there's not a lot changing on screen. Whereas a game player, where the screens are flashing all sorts of things, they must take up a heck of a lot of video bandwidth. So I can kind of understand that. Okay, now that makes sense. That definitely makes sense. That's a positive note for trying it. Definitely a positive note. It's another one of those things that I sort of was talking to somebody at work the other day about streaming, and about how people who don't do it think, you just turn a camera on and do it. What's hard about that? What's hard about streaming? And sort of often the end of that conversation is, well, why don't you try it? And those that do very quickly come back and sort of realise just how hard streaming is. Well, yes, it is. I mean, there is a heck of a lot behind the scenes, isn't there? Especially for creative as well. I mean, the one thing I find about creative broadcasters is, generally speaking, we've got multiple cameras, and lighting is terrible. It's really hard to get good lighting, and and quite often it's quite hard to get good sound as well. I mean, you have that issue, haven't you, trying to get sound? But even people don't actually realise just how hard it is to talk to a camera. That's the bit that catches a lot of people behind, and then they realise the behind the scenes stuff. But they just really don't realise how hard it is to talk to a camera. There's very few people that can do it straight off. My first experience of it must be a good many years ago now, but I did with work I did a training course and one of the exercises on it was about presenting with no feedback. So, you know, a really bad audience, if you like. And the way in which they gave you a really bad audience was you were sat at a desk. At the other side of the desk was a video camera, and otherwise the room was empty. The people that were watching your presentation were watching it on a screen in another room. And boy, that was the hardest presentation I've ever had to do. Really, really hard. And to some extent it's kind of even a bit harder than just doing this, although that my memory's probably playing tricks. But that at the time was the hardest thing I'd ever had to do, and it's kind of like this is with broadcasting here. But I think the difference I find with that is at the time I'm doing something here at the same time. Okay, sometimes I stop what I'm doing, but I'm kind of doing something at the same time, which helps. Whereas at that point the sole purpose was the presentation. But that camera work, working to camera, yeah, you have to keep talking. Yeah, and that's right. You've had a really long day, and you're really tired, and the last thing you want to do is just keep talking. It's the people that can do that really do. Really, I really sort of admire the people who can do that, because no matter sort of what they're feeling, they've got the energy and what have you to just keep the conversation going, whether there's anybody talking or even anybody watching. My hat's off to them. It's I sort of, well, I do have off days where I just really don't say anything, and especially if I'm enjoying what I'm doing, that's hard as well, because I tend to get lost in what I'm doing, and I'll suddenly realise that, hey, I've not said anything for the last 5 minutes. But and of course I'm starting to do it. You then get the broadcasters that are thinking faster than they're talking. So you get them doing the and I can only watch a broadcaster do that for so long. Focus, yeah. Hello, May Artist, welcome. Welcome to the stream. Thank you for joining. You're lost. So, are you lost about what I'm doing, lost about what I'm talking about, or just lost? Although I could say you're not lost, because she broadcasts music, and you can find her elsewhere on Twitch in the music category. You can't do this craft? This is one of the easier ones to do, I would have said. It's the canvas comes pre-printed with glue on it. They give you the tool, the pen, and these little dots, and it's just like painting by numbers. It's just put the dot number 1 in all the squares where there's a number 1. You kind of, well, I don't know. Patience is an interesting thing, Sarah, insane, because I helps if you put a dot on the end. Quite a few of the other crafts that I do, the carving or even the pyrography, a lot of people say, how do you have the patience to do it? And I don't find you need patience. Or maybe my definitions of patience is different. When I'm doing this, I'm always doing something, and I'm making progress. So it's when I find I need patience is if I'm doing something and it won't work. I can't quite get it right, and my stress levels go up at that point, because you sort of almost there, but it just won't. Whatever it is that you're trying to do, you can't get the needle in a hole or whatever. It keeps just missing, and with me, I sort of, my stomach tenses up, and the stress levels go up, and that's when I need patience. Is at that point, because I need to be able to persevere to finish it, and then or do whatever it was, and at that point I can just suddenly relax then, and and that's what I consider when you need patience to do something, is when you're not making the progress, when you're not getting something right, and you need to just keep pushing through that, and then you're back on. Oh, yeah, there is a point at when you're doing this sometimes where you just can't see the numbers, or your eyes start sort of won't sit in one place, they just dance around. I've kind of had that, and I've got reading glasses on, so I changed my glasses for this, just because if I wear the other ones I get that sort of effect as well. Yeah, trying to concentrate on one space. I don't like doing this when I'm tired for that reason. My eyes just won't stay in one place. I just can't focus. You tried 3D cards as well, like not seeing any of those. You have a problem yeah. Oh, you have no problem sitting there doing crocheting, yeah. Yeah, it's as I say, I think patience is a weird one. I mean, I can quite happily sit down and do crocheting and stuff like that, but if I can't quite get a pattern to go right, then that's patience for me. Not tried any leather working yet. I've actually not made any beads yet, but I hopefully will be before long. I've woven them, and yeah, I've woven them, but I've never made any yet. Lady Zara has stigmatism. Yeah, she hasn't actually sort of said. She said to me she wouldn't like to do this, because she can't actually focus on them. But then again, she's got quite bad prescription anyway, so that doesn't help. And of course, somebody who doesn't have that sort of eye problem has no idea what it's like, and even though Lady Zara does have astigmatism, I've no idea what it's like. It's really hard to imagine. And it's a pity though. It's because you get some really nice pictures out of this. I mean, you can sort of see you can't see the effect of it at the moment. But have you seen? I don't know if you've seen any of these done before. Galame artist. I've got one. Where have I got one? I was going to show you one complete. Oh, there. I think. Because when they're complete, I mean, they're still a pixel picture, and you have to stand a bit of a way away to see them, but because as you sort of just move around them, they sparkle. And just as you're walking past them, you get that sparkle. As long as there's a fairly bright light on, like sunlight, or here I've got some spotlight, and they really sort of sparkle really nicely. But until this one won't, until I've got some more dots on. I've got very few on it at the moment. But there we go. I love. I was going to say I love pixel art. I sort of do, but I sort of don't. I like art that's made up of pixels. I have loved that for a long number of years now, tens of years. I got interested. Daft it sounds. I got interested in pixel art when I started being able to receive pictures from weather satellites, because they kind of come down a pixel at a time, not quite, but kind of. And watching one of those pictures build pixel by pixel, sort of, there's another one of those things like glass working. It sort of has fascinated me ever since I've seen it. But what people call pixel art these days, like the 8-bit pixels, you know, they kind of don't interest me very much. Okay, insane. I understand. Yeah, you enjoy your shower, enjoy a cooling shower, and get some sleep. Yeah, 5 hours of sleep is yeah. You need to catch up. I can't have you falling asleep over a torch, and you being able to watch you do not do that. Being able to watch you make glass is kind of important. I'd rather watch you do that than fall asleep over the torch. So, have a good night. Thank you very much for dropping in and for hosting. That was absolutely fantastic. And I look forward to chatting with you again. Yeah, see you soon. Actually, yeah, it's about time I started wrapping up as well. Time passes really quickly sometimes. Okay, I'll see if I'm around this weekend. I may be painting the studio, so mind you, if I am painting it, I may be able to put the mobile on and listen, if not watch. So we'll see. But thank you for letting us know. If anybody who isn't watching doesn't know, and I can't do a shout out because I haven't got a keyboard attached, but yeah, running in the background. If anybody watching doesn't know, Insane 2NL there. He's a glass worker. I'm not going to get into it. Go watch the streams. Absolutely fantastic to watch. Great creativity. If you like watching beads being made, especially, there's a good one. And broadcast quite frequently. It's going to be at the fair. Have a good night. Especially since it's 10 o'clock at night for you there. I'm just going to do a little bit more, not much. I normally broadcast from 7 PM at night until 9 PM at night, which is UK time. 3 nights a week, which is currently sort of Monday, Wednesday and Friday. And we're just about, I started late tonight, so I'm not rushing off, but we'll be finishing very shortly here. I kind of tend, when I'm doing this sort of diamond dot stuff, like diamond dots, magic dots, whatever you want to call them, because diamond dots is a trade name, and I suppose I shouldn't really use a trade name for something that isn't their product. But magic dots was a name someone came up with on the stream actually one day as to what to call them. But I tend to like to finish off sort of either finish off a tray of stuff I've got in my hand, or finish off a particular sort of block of colour. But it is one of these sorts of crafts where you sort of almost play a little game with yourself in a way, you know, like, oh, I just want to finish this bit off here, you know, like I finished that bit off now, but you know, no, let's just put another one there. Oh, well, let's finish that block off, and you know, let's just put a few in, just around there, you know, just a couple of minutes more, and then you know you work your way through it like this. And I've got what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, about another 12 to do. So yeah, we'll just do those. And you can take your time doing this. Sometimes you feel like a human pick and place machine, like the electronics things, but and you do end up sort of playing games like, quite how fast can I do this, or yeah, can I do this one a second, or you just sort of play these games in a way, not that you're sort of bored or anything, but it just sort of makes the time pass differently. But you sort of go like, you know, I've nearly finished now, and only another 3 to do. So that's, you know, 2, and that's the 3rd. Oh well, I'll just join this bit up to this bit here, like this, and then it's kind of like, well, we've got just the, I won't do them, but let's just do these bits here. And what you suddenly find is that sort of half an hour or an hour later, you've done sort of several hundred extra dots that you weren't thinking of doing, and you've got a, you know, yeah, you got a bit more done on the picture, and you've enjoyed yourself doing it, but you've got to be quite disciplined sometimes about going, you know what, I've got to stop, not only as a broadcaster who's doing this sort of thing, but just when you're doing it for, you know, in real life, shall we say, as a hobby. And you've got to put these dots on the right way, otherwise they don't stick. So I am just doing a little bit. He says, a number of times I've been guilty of that. You know, if you like, I don't know if it's done, if your sort of brain does it on purpose, but you forget at the point where you were just about to finish. You forget that you were about to finish there, and your brain sort of goes ahead and puts a dot in one of the extra, you know, one of the areas that you weren't going to do. And then you sort of, oh, now that I've started, I better finish it. So you sort of, you know, you can be going along and talking or doing whatever, and you just do that, and you go, oh, I was going to stop there, but now I'll have to do this bit. Now I set that up on purpose, but it does happen in real life. Okay, so, but I really am going to stop in a minute. He says, really? Let's see if I actually do it. So one of those things you could almost hold bets against, you know, if it wasn't illegal. Am I going to stop in time? Well, I am. I'm going to stop at that point. And I'm going to cover this back up. That keeps the glue fresh. And stops dust and hair, especially with, we've got cats around here, so little cat hairs tend to stick, and then you've got to get a pair of tweezers and something sharp to try to get hold of them to lift them off, otherwise the dots don't stick properly, and you don't want them dropping off. So, but anyway, that will be it for this evening. That's what the whole picture is going to look like. They often do reasonable colouring in these, especially when there's not too many colours, so it probably will look quite like that, but it will sparkle. It's not quite sparkly at the moment because there isn't enough really black around there, but it will look quite good. So as I mentioned, next stream I'll be carrying on with this. We will keep on now until one of two things: we either finish this or the glass studio's ready. one or other of them. And I really don't know which is going to come first. This is quite surprising. There is quite a few hours of work to do something like this. We've done half the black, and that's in about an hour and 3/4. And as you can see, the black isn't a significant amount, relatively speaking, to the whole of this picture. We've done about literally about half the black, and so there's probably going to be, I don't know, I'm taking a guess, at least 10 hours or more of this. That's about another 5 or 6 streams. So it's going to be going on for quite a while. So the next stream, today we're Wednesday, so the next one's Friday. 7 PM UK time, that's 1800 hours GMT. Can't even do maths these days. If you haven't seen the whole of this stream, would like to see it, and any of the previous broadcasts, some are available here on Twitch, of course, video on demand. If they're not available here on Twitch, you can see any or all of them on YouTube, youtube.com/SarahGanArt. If you'd like to be notified, of course, there's the follow button up there at the top, and if you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm at SarahGanArt. Twitter.com/SarahGanArt. I do tweet when I go live. He says, remembering that I forgot completely to do it tonight. Never mind. I'm going to start using the new feature, the Stream Deck, that does about 6 things all in one go, and then I won't forget streaming. But I've got to set that up just yet. But generally speaking, I'll tweet when I go live as well. And that's always a good place to follow me anyway, because if for any reason I can't do a stream, I do try and tweet that out, so you don't come looking for me if I'm not there. And about the only other thing to mention, as Moobot keeps putting it up there into to chat, is check out, if you're at all interested in things like chainmail jewellery and some beadwork, and that's little tiny glass beads, not the nice sort of stuff that Sarah makes, then if you take a look at sarahganart.etsy.com, there's a shop there where you can buy things like this bracelet. Not that one, but this one. You can buy that pattern in that colour. Not in that. That's sterling silver. I can't tell you that. But that sort of chainmail. Some really nice patterns, really nice colours, really nice metals. Take a look. With that, I'm going to say thank you for watching. And everybody who is watching, thank you for popping by. Hope I'll see you on the next stream. And bye for now.